On June 12, 1924, the Newton boys executed the largest mail train robbery in American history, stealing over $2 million from a postal car in Rondout, Illinois. But a single, accidental bullet unraveled their perfect plan and exposed a shocking truth. Someone inside the railway system had betrayed America's most trusted network. This is the true story of how one night changed the U.S. Postal Service forever, and why the biggest mystery was never the robbery itself, but who made it possible. Discover the dramatic events that marked the end of the mail train era and the beginning of modern security. June 12, 1924. 6 men stopped a train carrying $2 million in cash over $35 million in today's money, and nearly got away with the largest mail robbery in American history. What should have been the perfect crime unraveled because of a single bullet, fired by mistake into one of their own. Most people have never heard this story, yet it exposed a terrifying truth. America's entire postal system, the network that connected every town, every family, every business, was protected by nothing more than public trust and thin steel doors. The Newton boys knew something, and investigators would spend years trying to prove. Someone inside the railway had sold them secrets that should have been impossible to obtain. The choice facing federal agents was impossible: catch the robbers or expose that the system itself had been compromised from within. This is the story of how a single night in Illinois changed American mail forever. And you're about to discover why the biggest mystery wasn't the robbery itself, but who made it possible. But first, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. On the night of June 12, 1924, mail train number 57 cut through the Illinois darkness carrying more than ordinary correspondence. Inside the armored cars, protected by steel compartments and special braking systems, traveled $2 million in cash, the equivalent of tens of millions of dollars today. The official destination was Chicago, but 6 men waited in the shadows of Rondout with very different plans. The railway that connected the entire country was about to witness the largest mail train robbery in American history, a crime so audacious that Hollywood would still be telling this story decades later. The Newton boys weren't amateurs rubbing their first stage car. They were meticulous professionals who studied every detail of that postal car: the schedules, the routes, the security procedures, even the exact number of postal workers laboring aboard. They knew that this specific mail train transported accumulated cash from weeks of collection, money destined for banks and businesses that depended on railway punctuality to survive. In 1924, America still trusted the railroads blindly. Every city, every village, every isolated farm depended on those steel tracks to receive not just letters, but their livelihood, their news, their connection to the world. But something was different that night in Rondout. Residents of the small station noticed strange movements near the tracks, shadows that shouldn't be there, the kind of tense silence that precedes storms. The mail train was approaching punctually, its special brakes ready for the routine stop, its secret compartments full of riches, crossing the country protected only by trust in the system. The workers inside the postal car were sorting correspondence without imagining that, in minutes, they would be face to face with armed men determined to redirect the destination of that cargo. And the mistake one of them would make would transform that perfect heist into a tragedy that would deliver them all to the authorities. The men who worked inside the mail train cars in 1924 lived in a world of constant motion and remarkable trust. These postal workers spent their nights racing through darkness at 60 miles per hour, sorting letters and packages in swaying railway cars while America slept. Their fingers moved with practiced precision, reading addresses by dim lamplight, organizing correspondence into hundreds of slots and pigeons, making split-second decisions that determined whether a farm or a seed order arrived on time or a love letter reached its destination before a wedding. They were the invisible architects of American connection, men whose names no one knew, but whose work kept the entire nation talking to itself. The railway system of the 1920s was more than transportation. It was the country's central nervous system. Small towns that couldn't afford telegraph offices depended entirely on that mail train schedule. Families sent their children traveling as parcels until 1915, trusting postal workers to feed them and keep them safe during long journeys to visit relatives. People shipped live chickens, fresh butter, even small farm animals in those baggage mail compartments, knowing the railway would deliver their goods faster and more reliably than any other system. The trust was absolute, almost religious. When that train whistle echoed through a prairie town at 2 a.m., people slept easier knowing the outside world was still connected to them. But that same trust made the railway an irresistible target for men like the Newton boys. They understood that Americans believed so completely in the postal system's integrity that security had grown complacent. Banks shipped cash by mail train. Jewelry stores sent diamonds. Government offices transported sensitive documents and payroll for entire counties. All of it rolling through the night in those specialized postal cars with their separated compartments and reinforced doors. The workers inside were civil servants, not soldiers. Most had never fired a gun or faced a criminal. And on that June night in Rondout, 6 desperate men were counting on exactly that vulnerability. The Rondout station sat in peculiar silence that night, a wrongness that the station master couldn't quite name. Mail trains had stopped there 1,000 times before, but something in the air felt different. The way animals sense earthquakes before they strike. 2 of the regular railway workers had called in sick that same afternoon, an unusual coincidence that no one questioned at the time. A telegram had arrived earlier that day with instructions to have extra coal ready for the locomotive, though no one could remember who authorized it. Small details, individually meaningless, but together they formed a pattern that only became visible in hindsight. Inside the postal car, the workers noticed their own strange omens. The locks on the reinforced compartment doors seemed looser than usual, as if someone had been testing them. One of the younger postal workers, a man named Eddie who'd only been on the route for 3 months, mentioned hearing unusual sounds during the previous night, run metallic clicks that didn't match the railway's normal rhythms. His supervisor dismissed it as rookie nerves, the kind of phantom noises that every new worker imagines in the darkness. But Eddie couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been measuring, timing, learning the mail train's secrets while they worked unsuspecting above the cargo holds, where those $2 million waited in locked iron boxers. Then there were the men themselves. The Newton boys had been too careful, too invisible. No one in Rondout recognized them, though they'd been watching the station for weeks. They had posed as railway inspectors, as traveling salesmen, as farmers waiting for shipments. They knew which postal workers drank coffee, at which times, which ones stepped outside to smoke, which ones would freeze under pressure, and which might fight back. But their greatest mystery was on how they planned the heist. It was the question no investigator could answer later. How did they know exactly which train, which night, which cargo would be worth risking everything? Someone, somewhere, had given them information that only a handful of railway officials possessed. The Newton boys' plan unfolded with mechanical precision, until the moment everything shattered. They stopped the mail train, exactly where they intended. Overpowered the postal workers, with surprising gentleness. These weren't killers, just thieves who understood that violence drew federal attention. Within 12 minutes, they had cracked open the reinforced compartments, and were loading canvas bags, stuffed with cash into their waiting vehicles. $2 million, the biggest railway heist in American history, and they were going to vanish into the Illinois night like ghosts. But then, Jimmy, the youngest of the Newton boys, made a decision that would haunt them all. He stepped out of the postal car at the wrong moment, in the wrong position, wearing dark clothes in deep shadow. His own brother didn't recognize him. The gunshot cracked through the night like a branch breaking, and suddenly the perfect crime had a bleeding witness who couldn't be left behind. They had to take Jimmy to a doctor, which meant using their carefully prepared safe house, which meant leaving a trail. The railway investigators who arrived at dawn found something the Newton boys hadn't noticed in their panic. Drops of blood leading away from the train, a pattern that told a story clearer than any witness statement. Within 48 hours, federal agents had traced the safe house, found the doctor who'd extracted a bullet, and discovered the one thing professional criminals fear most: physical evidence that couldn't be talked away or alibied into confusion. But here's what troubled investigators for years afterward. The Newton boys had inside information too precise to be coincidence. They knew about a railway accounting practice that concentrated cash shipments on specific dates. They knew which postal workers would be aboard and which wouldn't. They knew the exact location of the reinforced compartments in that specific mail train configuration, details that change monthly for security reasons. They even knew you hadn't subscribed to the channel or left a like. So subscribe now. Someone with access to railway headquarters had sold them the keys to the kingdom. And that person was never caught. The greatest mail train robbery in history solved itself through a single accidental bullet. But the deeper conspiracy, the ghost who made it all possible, remained free. Perhaps still working within the very postal system, sworn to protect America's correspondence and commerce. The trial of the Newton boys in 1924 became a spectacle that revealed just how fragile America's trust in the railway system had become. Newspapers across the country ran daily updates, not just about the stolen $2 million, but about the vulnerability of every mail train crisscrossing the nation. Families who had once casually shipped valuables through the postal system suddenly questioned everything. banks that relied on railway transport for cash deliveries started hiring private armed guards. The testimony revealed something more disturbing than the robbery itself. For every documented heist, investigators estimated a dozen more had gone unreported or unsolved. The railway companies had been hiding their failures to maintain public confidence, and now that confidence was evaporating, like morning fog under harsh sunlight. Inside the courtroom, Jimmy Newton sat with his arms still bandaged, a living monument to how quickly perfect plans crumble. His brothers remained silent about their mysterious informant, taking plea deals that sent them to federal prison but protected whoever had betrayed the railway from within. The prosecutors knew someone else was involved. The evidence screamed it, but without cooperation from the Newton boys. That ghost would remain free. And here's what kept postal inspectors awake at night. If one person could sell railway secrets for a cut of $2 million, how many others were doing the same? The mail train system that had once seemed as reliable as sunrise now felt like a house of cards, one strong wind away from complete collapse. The Newton boys served their time and walked free years later, never speaking publicly about their source until a 1980 interview when Willis Newton, then 91 years old, smiled and said, "Only some secrets die with you, and some die before you do." By then, the mail train era had ended, killed not by robberies, but by highways and trucks that didn't follow predictable schedules or advertise their valuable cargo. The Rondout heist marked the last great railway robbery, but also the beginning of the end for a system that had connected America for generations. That $2 million was never fully recovered, and somewhere in Illinois, locals still whisper about buried money waiting in fields where the Newton boys might have hidden their emergency stash. The train's destination that night was supposed to be Chicago, but its real destination was history. A final, violent punctuation mark on an era when America's fate literally rode the rails, vulnerable to anyone bold enough or desperate enough to stop it. The mail train robbery at Rondout wasn't just about stolen money. It was about the moment America realized that the systems connecting us are only as strong as the people running them. In 1924, families trusted the railway so completely they once sent their own children through the mail. By 1977, those same trains had disappeared, replaced by highways and anonymity. We gained speed and efficiency, but we lost something else. That strange, beautiful trust that made an entire nation believe 6 postal workers sorting letters at midnight could protect millions of dollars with nothing but dedication and a locked door. The Newton boys walked free, eventually. Their secret informant never identified. The missing cash never fully recovered. Maybe that is how it should be. Some mysteries remind us that history is not a collection of solved cases, but an ongoing conversation about who we were and who we're becoming. Every time you track a package on your phone or worry about porch pirates, you're living in the world that Rondout created. A world where we protect everything because we trust nothing. So here's my question for you. If you could ask Willis Newton one question during that 1980 interview when he was 91 and had nothing left to lose, what would you ask him? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you want more stories about the moments that changed America a century ago, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. These stories aren't just history. They're the blueprint for understanding why our world works the way it does today. The train has left the station. The question is, are you coming along for the ride?